Hey folks, and welcome back to Reclaiming the Sword. I am your host, Ryan. And, oh man, where do I even start? Well, we're back in the United States. Praise be to God. We're here, and it feels so good to be back home. The first most noticeable thing is how kind and polite Americans really are. Okay. I don't mean to harp on the German people too much, because I met a lot of great Germans while we were there for the 3.5 years, especially within our church community. I'll never forget those people. I'll never forget Father. We plan on staying in touch with that parish and just kind of giving them updates on how we're doing them, some of them pictures of the kids and stuff like that. But it's a generality. Germans are not very polite, especially when it comes to customer service. Oh man, it's so nice. People just smile at you and give you a warm greeting and help you out, not just because it's their job, but because they want to. It's so hard to get that in Germany. It's so easy here. I love it. People are so kind. God bless America. Oh man, where else do I go with this? God has been so good to us in the last few months. So many answered prayers. So many answered prayers. Just the little ones, the big ones, the ones you don't really know that he's working behind the scenes. You know, he has just been with us. And large credit to just letting go, detachment, letting go of the fear and just placing it in God's hands and letting him take care of it. We have all our distractions and our attachments to sin, and it can really, affect our prayer life and our belief, and just, if we're like those people that he healed, where he would just say, now go and wash your eyes, and they just do it because their faith was strong. Jesus said to go wash my eyes and I will be healed. Jesus said, get up and walk. And I did, because their faith was strong and they were rewarded. And so just like in our daily lives and the little trials and the big trials, the trivial things, the not so trivial things, it's just, God will take care of us. It'll be fine. And just wait and listen, and he will answer one way or the other. It can be real hard sometimes, but to be patient, to know when to listen. But man, he's there, I'm telling you. Let's see, what else? So the trip over here was rough. Wasn't as rough as going to Germany. A lot easier coming back as far as the flight is concerned. Because we did a straight flight instead of bouncing to Atlanta and Baltimore, and stuff like that. We just did a straight flight to Dallas and then drove up to Oklahoma. Now we have been in a hotel for over a week now. Oklahoma apparently went ahead and put on a ballot measure about pot dispensaries. So those exploded everywhere. The whole town smells like weed now. It's really disappointing. And almost, every floor of the hotel smells like weed. It's partly a transient hotel. Maybe 10% transient hotel. There's definitely a dude that sleeps out in the lobby almost every night. It used to be a nice place. Now it's like, man, I would never recommend anybody come back here. But we got nowhere else to go. And housing didn't come through like they should when we got here. They were like, maybe sometime in June. I was like, okay. And so we started looking around for rentals, and we'd find something, and then somebody would come and get it before we could. And then I'm doing my best just to be calm and just trust in Jesus on this. Cause I'm just so joyful to be back home, and God has answered so many prayers so far coming home, and I know He's going to keep answering our prayers. And yesterday in Mass, and I'll talk about Mass in a moment. I didn't have my my missal with me. I usually have my Latin English missal, but we went to our old church, the Norris Odo, so I didn't think of bringing it. There's usually a Thanksgiving prayer I like to do at the end, so I didn't have it. Well, I had my little my gospel Bible. It's just a gospel in there, and and the rest of the New Testament. And there's a bunch of prayers in there, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna pray after, for my Thanksgiving. I'm gonna do my Thanksgiving prayer, and then I'm gonna do some extra prayers here to the Holy Family, to Saint Joseph, and just cover everything, cover my friends, my neighbors, my enemies, cover my family, and what we need to be, to lead a holy life, and yada 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 yada. And then this morning, it's like, all right, I got to go get checked in with the unit. I got to get started. We're still in our hotel. Hopefully I can get this, we can get this property that we're trying to get, this beautiful neighborhood. It's just like perfect, ideal. We can walk to church if we want to. And then my wife, I get a phone call, but I missed it. And I was like, oh man, that's housing. That's military housing. And that's calling me. And I let Laura know, I text her, and she's like, I was just praying a trustful surrender about our housing situation. And they called the minute she was done. I'm telling you, man, so cool. And so I go into the office, and sure enough, they're like, well, it's going to be like late June. And I'm like, oh man. It's like, that's hard, because if I accept that house, I'm closing the door on all these potentials that are going to be available in the first week of June. And I can't say no to that either. And so she was like, well, let me see what I can do. And she offered us a 4-bedroom house that's normally for the handicapped. They always have like extras, spares of those, and she's like, well, you take that, and it will be available in the beginning of June. Praise be to God. He came through. It's not our ideal neighborhood. It's not exactly what we wanted, but I was telling Laura, I'm like, this is what we need. We can save money. We can decide how we're going to move in the future, or whether or not we're going to be in the Lawton area when we're done, or we're going to be in Oklahoma City or Tulsa or who knows where. This will be the perfect place for us to make that transition. It's going to be a lot easier for us. God came through. He knew what we wanted. He knew not so much what we wanted. He knew what we needed. And we were faithful. And we put our trust in Him, and we prayed, and He came through. It's so beautiful to happen. Now, let me talk about Mass. So we went to our first Mass since getting back. Yesterday. How much time do I got? Oh, okay. I got about 15 minutes, and I got to go. It was our first Norris Odo Mass since leaving Germany. Well, not exactly true. We did go to one when we were invited for some friends, and I don't remember what the occasion was. It was a confirmation. So, but it was our first one since pretty much our first one since leaving the United States, and this is the church that was our community when we left. Both Holy Family and Blessed Sacrament, both like part of our beginnings here, and and certainly my beginnings of growing in my faith, because honestly, it wasn't until when I was in basic training here in Oklahoma, here in Fort Sill, that the deacon would take all the basic trainings after church, and he would do quote unquote Bible study. And he's the one who taught me how to pray a rosary. That's how trash my RCIA was back in 2006. You know, they didn't even teach me the rosary. I didn't know anything. So seeing him again, tears to my eyes. When I saw Father Phil over at Holy Family, when I saw him walk by, tears to my eyes. I gave him the biggest hug. So happy to see him. So happy to see Deacon Bob. Here I'm tearing up a little bit. It seems like every time I do one of these, I tear up a little bit. You know, it just means I give a shit. Excuse me. It just means I care that much. But anyways, seeing him, just so much like joyful emotion. Now, Mass itself, after being in the TLM with the society for 3.5 years and having all that proper ordered worship, just everything is just so divine, from the imagery to every motion, every movement, every prayer. So much extra grace from all the prayers that are not in the Nor Risotto. And then coming back to it. And it was a little disappointing, because not just because all those prayers are removed in the Nor Risotto, but because they didn't even actually, I think they may have even not followed their own liturgy. Did we just not hear the Kyrie, the Gloria? I feel like those two were missed, and the I confess, the Confiteor, I'm horrible with pronouncing that in Latin, that was missing too. Definitely, that one was missing. And so I did that one on my own, and I was like, geez, that was weird. You know, there were so many things that I could just list that I knew was wrong, or I disapproved of, or it just wasn't right. I could be like, bam, 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 all these things. But I told my wife, I told my son, I told my daughter, we can be real wet blankets about this, because the nearest TLM is 1.5 hours to 2 hours. It'd be a 6-hour day for us. We will do it probably once or twice a month. Drive up to Oklahoma City. But we can't do it all the time. It's just so far. And now we do technically, at least according to some traditional minds, you have a dispensation, you know, because if your the Nor Risotto leads you to sin because you're seeing so many things that are wrong, and it makes you upset, and yada 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 yada. There's a whole thing about that I'm not going to get into. That's for somebody else to explain. I'm sure you could YouTube it. Anyway, we could be real wet blankets about this. But when I saw Bob and I saw Father Phil, I was filled with so much joy. Like, we were not much different than any of these people in the pews not long ago, you know? So instead of just being wet blankets about it, what if we just, that joy that we feel from being back home and back in this community where it all started for us, and we just brought our joy with us. And that's how we try to change the face of the church. All this division, all these pejoratives back and forth. We did the rad trads and the, well, you're a modernist, or whatever the heck you call them, a pope splainer, blah 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 blah. You know, what if we just brought our joy from everything that we've gained, all the graces we've got from being at the TLM for 3.5 years and nothing else, and doing all these beautiful processions and all this tradition, and my son got to serve every Mass, and we brought that with us, brought that home, all that grace. You know, that's really the only way that we could ever expect to change the face of the church. And slowly but surely we start getting involved and maybe making these suggestions. And people will maybe listen because we've brought so much joy into the fold. And that would be after time of just like really just try to get in there and be joyful and not be a wet blanket about it. I'm not going to say the R word, that stupid R word, because that's rigid. Okay, all right, I said it. I'm not going to, but I don't say that word because being rigid is not a bad thing. Okay, because the last time I checked, the cross was rigid. Anyway, I digress. I'm 16 minutes in here, and I got a few more minutes. All right. Now, I think you get my point. So for any of you that are like us, and it's just like we want to be traditional, we want to have that tradition in our family, and we want to make it happen. And maybe you have a son or a daughter who's got a future potential of a vocation in the church, either as a sister or a priest, and your Norris Odo diocesan church is just seems so far removed from so much tradition. And you know what? And you can only get to the Latin Mass once in a while. We know what right is, so while we're in that Mass that just is missing so much and is full of so many distractions, just increase your prayer, close your eyes and increase your prayer, and pray for everyone that's there. Pray for the priest, pray for everyone, including our enemies, and just keep asking God, how can I help change the face of the church? What is it that you need from me while I'm here? Because at the end of the day, yes, it is a valid Mass. It probably shouldn't be because of the history behind it and how it all got started, and the fact that it's missing so much grace from all the prayers that were removed. But what does it have? It does have the consecration, and it does have the Word. We went 3.5 years without having a single homily because it was always in German, So all we had was our prayers and the consecration. Now we have some of these prayers removed, but we have the consecration and we have the Word. And now we have our homily. It's not empty. We can look at it as glass half full or glass half empty. The church has its problems, but I decided some weeks ago, I think I might have talked about it last time. Father Rittberger said something about it. Father Rittberger said something about it, about detaching ourselves from not just the world and the state of the country, but the state of the church. Detach yourself from the state of the church and just increase your life in prayer. I'm really bad about that. I'm really bad about being regimented with an ordered formal prayer morning, noon, and night. I got night covered, but a lot of times I'm just kind of random and informal. But just keep plugging away. It's all I can really do. It's all any of us can really do, especially as laity. We can't really do much, but we can start somewhere. And what I'm saying, I think, is a good place to start. I'm so happy to be home. I'm so happy to see this church family again, even if it is Norris Odo. And there's so many things I can say that make me go, just close my eyes and just pray harder, just pray more. So anyway, yeah, I think that's the best I can do for the message today. I hope you're all having a blessed week, and I'll see you all next time. Stay rigid.